Welcome one, welcome all back to the channel, and we are at that funny time in between Christmas and New Year's, and something important falls within that time. The birthday of the late, great Stan Lee. And yesterday, as of this recording, across his official social media, I saw it asked, what are you going to do to celebrate the birthday of Stan the Man Lee? Well, this is a little different for my channel since it's usually very Transformer-centric, but my family and I decided that the best way we could honor the man was to go and see Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse with this wonderful little web crawler. And I can say right now, I'm very glad I did. I would like to kind of expand my discussion of some films and stuff here on the channel, and we're going to start doing that right now today with my thoughts, good and bad, about Into the Spiderverse. Stick around, we're going to have some fun, and the latest GotBot goes to the movies. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, and of course subscribe. Check out Machinery Man, The Everything Factor, Transformers Collectors NL, and me everywhere. I hope that the holidays were fabulous to you and yours. I hope that you got whatever you wanted from the man in red. Not this man in red, but the man in red who lives at the North Pole. And I hope that you're continuing the festivities with your family, your friends, and looking forward to a bright and prosperous 2019. But the focus here this time is not on a Transformer or a Transformer film or show. It's on Spider-Man. As a kid, he was, bar none, my absolute favorite hero. Still is, although perhaps somewhat tied with Batman. Nevertheless, if the two of them went up against each other, Spider-Man would win. I can tell you that now. So I, for one, was very excited when Into the Spider-Verse was announced because it brought so many aspects of the multiverse together. I don't want to kind of go right into like a spoiler discussion. I will give you kind of like a quick spoiler-free thoughts here and then go into the spoiler discussion. Kind of like I did with the Bumblebee review. I spent 2 or 3 minutes here because this is very quick. If you have not seen it, if you're on the fence, if you're thinking, well, it's just animated, go see it. It's a fantastic film. Fantastic. On the bad side, there's nothing. Absolutely nothing. The music is fantastic. The story is tight. The action is clever and well thought out. The humor is, again, very clever and well written. The kind of way that it ties together and the multiple versions of Spider people and kind of the backstories that lead to them and their interactions is done impeccably, quickly, but efficiently, and everyone is given enough time that they're developed into really kind of full characters. That goes for the Spider people and those characters around the Spider people and the villains. All of them given fantastic stories with heart, with great characterization, and there were certain things done that they were able to accomplish with animation that I don't think they would have been able to do with the same level of justice had this been live action. It's as simple as that. Yet there are some live action nods in there, which was nice to see. I went in thinking it'll be a cute movie. I came out with my mind absolutely blown. Don't walk, run. That's what I would say. Don't walk, run, and see that film if you are a Marvel fan, if you're a Spider-Man fan. You will definitely not be disappointed. Now, that's my non-spoiler, so if that's what you want to know, is it worth your time? Yes, it is absolutely worth your time. Let's get into the spoilers. Now I'm going to count back from 5, so this is your opportunity to leave. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, looking at the bad, there's nothing bad. Looking at the awkward, there's nothing awkward. This is, you know, we all know that Marvel storytelling is done well. This is no exception at all. The music is phenomenal. It is one of the best soundtracks I've heard in a long time. I don't know if there was any song that I didn't like. It's one of those that I think will be a bot, download, whatever soundtrack over and over because it's really tight, really good, and effective. It fits in very well. Let's talk about the writing. Tight story. You wouldn't think it, and the way it starts off, it almost makes you feel like it will be somewhat plotting, but it's not, because it has to set up certain relationships and certain strifes within those relationships that play a role as the story unfolds. Not the least of which is Miles' relationship with his father and his uncle. Had it not been established that that his father and uncle had a strained relationship, and had it not been established that Miles kind of looked up more to his uncle than his father, then I think when his uncle is revealed as Prowler, it wouldn't have had the same impact. When that happened, I was like, oh no. I felt for them, because I knew that as an uncle and nephew, they had such a tight bond, and this obviously was going to throw a big monkey wrench into it. And you could feel for Miles, like you could feel his heart breaking when he realizes it as well. You're the only one I can talk to. And like, just as he's writing that letter, that's when Prowler shows up. I mean, heartbreaking. When we get the backstory of each of the Spider people, and who they lost. That, again, like, it was a very touching thing. When Peter from one of the other universes says to Miles in his dorm room, like, you're not ready. You could feel that he wanted Miles to be ready. He wanted Miles to have that spark come out, but he's not there yet. When we saw the blonde-haired Peter, get taken out by Kingpin, that immediately set up just how ominous Kingpin was going to be, and how anybody else who was going to be in there was going to be a secondary villain to the Kingpin. Why? Because the Kingpin has already taken out Spider-Man. I thought that was so very effective, and took him out early. And you felt bad. You were like, how could you have a Spider-Man movie without the quintessential Peter Parker Spider-Man? Only to have another one show up. One who is not a perfect hero. One who is extremely flawed, hurt, and broken, really, and has a lot to kind of, I guess, try to still learn about himself and atone for. I thought the writing was so smart in that regard. Let's talk about the humor. The humor was really clever. The leap of faith thing, where Miles is looking at the comic, and he goes up to the top of the building, and he's standing there, and he doesn't jump off. He goes back downstairs and chooses a lower building and goes up. Like, that was funny. That got some laughs. The fact that, he's like, why am I hearing my voice in my head? And you see the speech balloons and stuff coming up. It was very, like, the comics coming to life, the real adventures of Spider-Man, and it's, from the actual comics. The way that was tied together was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So very effective. When he brings the other Peter back to his dorm room thing, when they're attached together by the web, and all of this cartoonish stuff happens to Peter, and they get back there, and he's like, "Are you a zombie? Am I a zombie?" Like, just him questioning that was funny. His awkwardness was, when he's trying to be cool, the whole shoulder thing. Hey, that was hilarious, and the whole. Theater laughed, and really, for the most part, things that were meant to be funny were on point, and people reacted. And things that were meant to be touching, again, had that same sort of gasping or awe reaction. Like, you were invested in the characters. You wouldn't think with so many, but you were invested in the characters. Speaking of the characters, let's get into them. The heroes, all of them, fantastic. We had a full backstory for Gwen, how she lost her best friend Peter, and even the sort of person that she is, where she has the experience, not as much as the others, but she has more than Miles has and realizes it. Then we have Peter, whose relationship with MJ, it kind of went down the tubes because he didn't want to have kids he wasn't ready for, but then he sees MJ in this other universe, and he's really drawn to her. Miles, very complex character with multiple layers, and his relationship with everybody else. I think Penny might have been the one that had kind of the least levels to her. Definitely Spider-Man Noir was Peter's dark side, no doubt about it. And that character and those comics are pretty dark anyway, meant to be a little more gritty, and certainly was. I think that Nick Cage voicing him was a fantastic choice, and kind of a nice comeback for Nick Cage, who we haven't seen in a while. The voice acting, though, was strong across the board for every character. Everybody done such a tremendous, tremendous job. Really did. Peter Porker, Spider-Ham, that was great. That was hilarious. I mean, the guy knows he's a cartoon and he can laugh at himself. I mean, it was fantastic. Then we get to the supporting characters. Aunt May. Not only could you get behind Aunt May, but like Aunt May, when they're down in like the Spider Cave, which I thought was fantastic. You go down there and you see like the Spider-Man vehicles and you see all these different suits. It was like a mix between the Bat Cave and like something Tony Stark would have. It was fantastic. Including like some of the suits were like a stealth suit and whatnot, and there was the one with the cape where it's I think a nod to like that universe where he just stops the robber and he becomes a big star and really pompous stuff and actually had a cape. So like some of it was sort of little nods like that. Like there were a million billion Easter eggs in this, such as Peter's origins are really those of the original Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy, because you see certain iconic scenes like when Spider-Man stops the train that came from that. I even heard that there was talk they were going to try and get Tobey Maguire to do the voice of Spider-Man. I'm kind of glad they didn't, because I don't think he would have really fit for the younger one that I think was Chris Pine. And for the older one, I don't think it would have fit because he had lived a very different sort of life where he had become sort of a jaded guy, and I think that the casting was done tremendously well there. Then we get to the kind of criminals. Goblin, I wasn't a huge fan of. I don't like that kind of like Hulk version of Goblin. Even though they did mesh the coloring with a lot of the purple and traditional elements, I'm not a fan of that. Just have Goblin just be normal Goblin with his Goblin glider, you know? I was okay with their iteration of Scorpion. You know, it was all right. Matt Gargan. There you go, Matt Gargan. It was all right, mech'd up. I loved Liv being Doc Ock. I thought that that was so cool, and the art for her was done so very well. It was nice seeing Tombstone. How often do you see Tombstone in anything, you know? But Kingpin. Kingpin was the be-all, the end-all, for sure. I didn't like that his head was so far down with that like kind of big hunchback, you know, taking up the full screen thing. I get it. I get where it comes from because there are a lot of nods to different Spider-Man artists from over the years, and there's like so many, from Eric Larson to Jack Kirby and so on and so forth. That I really like, especially like when they're doing like the phase in and out because they're destabilizing and whatnot. They need to get back to their own universe, and we're in Miles's universe for the record, in case somebody missed that. But like Kingpin was huge. He was menacing, but yet we find out that the whole reason he's doing this is because he lost his family, and this is a desperate last attempt move for him to get his family back, who had been killed in an accident when they fled from him when he had almost killed Spider-Man before, something like that. And really, he was on his way to taking out Miles, and it was like the vision of his family, seeing what he was doing, that kind of threw him off and caused him to really be the source of his own demise. You know, Miles didn't beat Kingpin. Kingpin beat Kingpin. And I thought that that was very fitting for the way that his character was being done. He was being built as like an invincible type of dude, so that, you know, they'd done it in such a way where it was like, okay, this little kid is not going to be able to take out this huge guy. And he even says, like, I've already taken out one Spider-Man. I'm looking forward to taking out another. And that's when his family appears and is like, Wilson, what are you doing? And he's like, no, don't go away. Stay with me. But, like, he beats himself. And I thought that that was, like, great poetic justice. Story, super tight, well-paced. The film wasn't too long, it wasn't too short. Characters, good and bad, every one of them well fleshed out, given heart, given humor, given a personality, given lines. Music, fantastic, but I think for me and for my family, one of the greatest aspects was the cameo by the late, great Stan Lee. always something that you love to see, and I know that those are getting numbered, and I was so happy to see it here. By the way, he technically had 2 cameos in it, both as like the shop clerk, and when Peter and Miles are like on the ground at the crosswalk and everybody's walking back and forth, there's one person who walks over them. That's also Stanley. So like I thought it was so well done. And then we get to one of my favorite scenes from the whole thing, right at the end, because of course you got that bonus scene, man. You got that bonus scene. And I was so happy to see in the bonus scene that it was Spider-Man 2099. I was wondering where Miguel was. It was great to see him there. Of course, he goes back to 67, and he's in the 67 cartoon, and they just took his character model and implanted it in an episode where there was an imposter Spider-Man and real Spider-Man, and they're like pointing at each other, and they just like kind of superimposed the Spider-Man 2099 on that and kind of redo the scene very humorously, but it was fantastic. Now, that being said, here's the interesting part. We had... The last time we saw Miles, it looked like a portal opening. And if I'm not mistaken, from the comics, there was a thing where like in Gwen's reality or something, she had like this watch thing that was able to like open portals. And I assume that it was Gwen opening a portal and talking to Miles there at the end of the like straight up movie. But when we see Miguel at the very end, he puts one of those things on his wrist and he uses it to go back to 67. So we know by 2099 he already has that technology. I don't know if they're going to do any sort of a follow-up to this, but I would think with how well received and how well done this was, it's almost got to be an inevitability that there is some other kind of Spider-Verse come together, probably with other iterations that we haven't seen yet. You know, there's even bad versions. Like there's that one where Peter is like a criminal and like kind of a crazed lunatic with a red costume. I think he's like a symbiote with Carnage or something. Like there's so many that they could still draw from. Who knows? Maybe we will still get a Scarlet Spider iteration yet. And I'm not gonna lie, I like the Scarlet Spider. I like him as Ben Reilly. I wouldn't want Ben Reilly to have been the real Peter back in the day and Peter be the clone and become Scarlet Spider. Like I like the way that worked out. But that's an old story from another time. That has nothing to do with the movie. The movie, it's fun. It's fun for kids. It's fun for adults. It's fun for your family. Go check it out. At least that's my take on it. If I gotta give it a score, 10. There's nothing I didn't like about it. Anyway, let me know what you thought about it. I know it's a bit different for the channel here. I know it's not TF related, but I gotta believe that there are some people who are also fans of other things, such as Marvel and the Marvel Universe. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was pretty much a perfect film. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Again, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out tremendously. I'm going to thank you again for your very, very valuable time, and I very much look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit right here inside the videos.